Okay, so as you can see, the video keeps cutting off. It is actually the next day of when I started, so 2nd of July. But as I was mentioning, a coffee, okay? So a coffee is like a metaphor. You have a very strong taste. It's so intense, right? And you want to dilute it so you can actually, enjoy it, and not just enjoy it, but not be so overwhelmed by it. So you put water in it. So this is kind of like a metaphor. So when you have emotions um, and associated with a certain kind of sect of thinking, it's always best to search for other opinions of the opposite sect, whether it's politics, whether it's your faith. Um, for example, for me, I grew up my parents were really conservative Christians, so when I wanted to figure out this whole pedophilia issue, I actually wanted to look at the Old Testament. I read the whole of the Old Testament, and a lot of it is contradictory to the things that I learned growing up in my faith. So that kind of diluted the emotional aspect of focusing on, like I have to be basically what they teach. You have to be always obedient. You have to be all these things that like you. It makes me think. Okay, in certain circumstances, you can't do what you would like ideally to do because it's gonna cause even more damage than if you actually do what is ideal. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of people they don't like reading the Bible or even um, like you'll always hear people say, okay, why is it so contradictory, right? But for me, I think, okay, the more contradictory you have, it's an opportunity to ask questions and seek the truth. And when I say seek the truth, it's not just anyone. You seek the truth from saints, because the saints are the ones that God produces miracles um, during their time, so that they can say, okay, God is kind of pointing people to this person to solve this issue and to explain better, right? So you don't just research anyone to solve these issues you have in the Bible, um, in particular the Bible, right? So yeah, I mean, as I said, this guy Vigano is important. He was at the top. He was in the embassy. So he was in the top of the hierarchical structure, and he could see many things happening. And you know, I think through God's grace, that's my opinion, he actually decided to tell people, like, there is cover up, right? And also because a priest who wanted to expose the cover up, he got uh, it's private investigators have had their opinion that he got murdered, right? Um, because he was trying to send information to Vigano, to the top people about the pedophilia. So Vigano, he was put in a situation, I think, because there's so much cover up, and the intensity of the cover up ended up being murder of a priest. I think that he went a little. The fight or flight mode kicked in. Fight or flight mode. and his rational brain kind of like went on the backside, on the passenger side. So he just divulged everything, right? Which is good for us who are not in that structure, who need to just protect our children, right? Um, so I want to honor that aspect of veganism. Unfortunately, because of the fight or flight response, a lot of what he said afterwards just doesn't make sense. He doesn't produce facts, right? But as for the whole whistleblowing of the cover up, that's good. So, in that sense, I wanted to honor him in this game. So, I got. Okay, this is one of the poems or whatever lines. So, this is him speaking. If I am to be remembered, then remember this. I became infamous, saving kids from pedobiz, like pedophilia business. So he will probably end up being considered infamous, and that's basically excommunicated. And look, the Pope has to do what he has to do, right? In terms of the objective facts. If the vegano is saying stuff that are totally bogus out there after this fight or flight mode kicked in, then yeah, sure, do the excommunication and all that stuff. It has nothing to do with the how God will judge a vegan, right? Because when the fight or flight mode exists, you don't really have true freedom. You need true freedom for you to be judged correctly, and only God knows the freedom he has right now, because a lot of the stuff he thinks is fight or flight, it just happens, right? And that I actually wanted to explain that in another poem. And this poem, it says, this is Vigano speaking, I may accuse the brethren, but without bad intention. People have called me Satan, because my thoughts feel facts blatant. So you know what people say, blatant facts? Just give me the blatant facts. That's basically, they want the facts. They don't want anything else. But as I mentioned, when the fight or flight mode comes in, the feeling gets so intense that you actually it goes into the belief system, and regardless of if, like, your rational brain doesn't work at that point, right? So as I mentioned before, the intensity is so much that whatever thoughts veganism has, he believes it, the facts, as if it's blatant facts. So now, after all these years, you're gonna hear him say stuff that just clearly is not true. He'll say stuff about the Pope, he'll say stuff about all these things, but it's his opinion. There's no facts, right? But there were facts initially when he was trying to tell about the pedophilia scandal. There were, priests got murdered. A priest got murdered for trying to give him the information. So there are facts in that case. So I just wanted to honor him in this way. Yeah, so brethren is is really brethren, and in the Bible, I think in the Apocalypse, or something like that, the person who accuses the brethren, he's considered like satanic. But I mean, in this case, it's important that you understand the initial accusations is true. It corresponds to truth, because there is truly cover up. As for the rest, yeah, I don't want to call it Satan. People will say, oh, he's so satanic, and I think it's influenced by the fight or flight mechanism.